So, have you ever stopped to think about what the real point of spiritual practice is? I mean, is it all about gaining some kind of special powers? Or is there something else going on entirely? Today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating ancient dialogue with the Buddha. It's called the Mahāli Sutta. And what's cool is that it starts with this very specific question about psychic abilities, but it ends with this huge revelation about the true purpose of the path. Let's get into it. All right, so let's set the scene. We're in the city of Visali at a place known as the Great Wood. Just imagine it. Envoys, all sorts of important people and locals have all heard the Buddha is in town, and there's this real buzz in the air. A crowd is forming, and everyone is hoping they can get a chance to see him, maybe even ask a question. And in this crowd, there's a man named Mahāli, who comes from a pretty well-known family, the Licchavi clan. Now, he's not there with some deep philosophical puzzle. Nope. He's got a very specific, almost technical problem about his friend's meditation practice that he needs help with. So Mahāli gets to the Buddha and just lays it all out. He says, look, my buddy Sunakara has been practicing for 3 whole years. He's actually gotten to the point where he can see these beautiful divine forms when he meditates. The problem is, he can't hear any divine sounds. So Mahāli's question is pretty simple. Do these sounds just not exist? Or is his friend somehow just not hearing them? Now, you might expect some kind of mystical, secret answer, right? But the Buddhist response is incredibly direct. It's practical, and it reveals this fundamental principle about how our minds work, especially in meditation. He gets right to the point. The Buddha brings up this key idea, ekam sabhavito samadhi. It's a Pali term, and what it basically means is a state of concentration that's been really developed or cultivated toward one specific thing, just one single aspect of experience. It's kind of like tuning an old-school radio. You have to dial it in just right to get the one station you're looking for. And this is really the heart of the Buddha's explanation. He says that if you develop this one-pointed concentration specifically to see divine forms, that's rupa, then, well, that's exactly what you're going to experience. But if you haven't developed your concentration to hear divine sounds, or sada, then you're just not going to hear them. Simple as that. So here's the takeaway. The divine sounds, they absolutely exist. Sunakara isn't making things up, and he's not really failing either. He just hadn't aimed his mental focus in that particular direction. His practice was all tuned into the sight frequency, not the sound frequency. It's a direct result of where he put his energy. And this is where the whole conversation just pivots. It's so cool. Mahāli hears this super clear, logical answer, and it makes him curious about the bigger picture. So he asks a follow-up, and this one question completely changes the direction of their talk. He basically asks, okay, that makes sense, but is this it? Is developing these powers, seeing divine sights and hearing divine sounds, is that the whole reason people follow this spiritual path with you? It's such a great question, right? He's asking about the ultimate why. What's the end game? The Buddhist reply is immediate. It's direct. It is crystal clear. No, Mahāli. Just a simple, powerful no. And you have to imagine that was probably a bit of a shock. I mean, if the goal isn't to get these incredible sounding powers, then what in the world is it? And then he explains. He tells Mahāli that no, that's not the reason at all. There are other things, other results of the practice that are way higher and more excellent than seeing heavenly lights or hearing celestial music. He's pointing way beyond the supernatural to something much, much more profound. So what are these higher and more excellent things? Well, the Buddha doesn't start talking about even more impressive powers. Instead, he lays out 4 clear stages of inner freedom, of genuine purification of the mind. So here's the real path of liberation he describes. First up, the stream enterer. This is someone who's had a direct glimpse of reality, and now they are guaranteed to reach enlightenment. Then comes the once returner. They've weakened things like greed and hatred so much they'll only be reborn here one more time. Even higher is the non-returner, who will never come back to this world. And finally, the ultimate goal, the arahant. This is a person who's fully awakened, who has completely cleaned out all the mental gunk and impurities. This, the Buddha is saying, is the real prize. So Mahāli gets it. The goal isn't about psychic tricks. It's about complete freedom. And that leads him, very logically, to his last and, you could argue, most important question. He just asks, okay, Venerable Sir, but is there a path? Is there a way to actually do this, to realize these states? If those 4 stages of freedom are the destination, what's the roadmap? And the Buddha says, yep, Absolutely, there is a path, a clear, practical, step-by-step way to get there. He calls it the Aryo Autengiko Mago. In English, we call it the Noble Eightfold Path. And this isn't some secret ritual or a mystical teaching you can only get on a mountaintop. It's a set of 8 interconnected practices that you can weave into every single part of your life. This path, this is the how-to manual for reaching those higher states. It kicks off with right understanding and intention. That's our wisdom. Then it moves through right speech, action, and livelihood. That's our ethical behavior. And it all culminates in right effort, mindfulness, and concentration, our mental training. And hey, see that last one, right concentration? That's the exact same skill Sanakatha was using. But here, you see it in its proper context as just one part of a much bigger goal, liberation, not just psychic fireworks. So it's pretty amazing, right? What began as a really simple technical question, why can my friend see things but not hear them? It just blossomed into this complete teaching. The Buddhists so skillfully used Mahāli's curiosity to shift the conversation from a minor point about meditation to the entire reason for the spiritual journey itself. And that kind of leaves us with a question for ourselves, doesn't it? In our own lives, in our own practices, whatever they might be, what's the real aim of our focus? Are we chasing after fascinating experiences, trying to see the unseen? Or are we training our minds to see reality right here and now with more clarity, more wisdom, and ultimately more freedom? That's a question worth sitting with.